There we go. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. I am Andrew Langer. So glad you can join me today. Let me do this. Um, um, got this. Let me do that. Hi. So, obviously, really great for you to join me. I'm so glad you could be here today. Got lots to talk about. As I said, and I'm going to X out of this here. Running these things on my own is not the easiest thing in the world to do. So it is much, much more helpful for me to continue to go down this road. All right, there we go. Lots happened last night, and I wanted to join you all today, or have you join me today, so that we could break down both the victories in Virginia and in New Jersey. Obviously, stunning things went on last night. And it's important to understand why these things happened and what they mean moving forward. So let me sort of set the stage. Obviously, we had indications that the Youngkin victory was going to happen. The polls were moving in that direction, but I have been to this dance before, and I was, as many of you know, Eeyorish about this. Again, I've seen Republicans snatch defeat from the jaws of victory before. And as I said going into this was Terry McAuliffe's race to lose. I thought as of Monday that McAuliffe was probably going to squeak it out, that it would come down to literally, I said somewhere between 3 and maybe 30,000 votes, given what we knew about what was happening and given what we'd seen in the past about this, that it was entirely possible that McAuliffe was going to be able to pull it out. We're going to get to New Jersey in a bit, and I'll say it right now: New Jersey is the bigger story, but we'll talk about that in a moment. The point is, listen, we know what happens with regards to history. We know what happens in midterm elections. We know what happens when you have an unpopular president, and all of those things were conspiring to give us what happened yesterday, and not even yesterday, but before yesterday, because we have so much early voting. But let me sort of, because it's funny, I got asked about this within the context of the 2006 elections and 2005 elections, but really the analog here is the 2008 presidential election, the election of Barack Obama, then what happened in Virginia and what happened in Virginia and in New Jersey, and then what that led to in terms of the 2010 midterm elections. Because all of the history is a listen. History is no guarantee of things repeating themselves, but it certainly can be an indicator of those things. And if you go back and you look at what happened, Republicans lost the House of Representatives they lost the Virginia governorship, and I think I want to say the New Jersey governorship in 2005. Then Republicans lost the House massively in 2006. We sort of knew that was happening. Of course, this is after George W. Bush was reelected in 2004, and reelected and increased his vote margins in 2004, I should say. But then Barack Obama gets elected in 2009. We have the birth of the Tea Party movement. We have a lot of unhappiness surrounding what was being talked about in terms of the Affordable Care Act, other things that the Obama administration was starting to do that were disturbing people. But remember, the Obama administration was much, much more popular than the Biden administration is. So, but then in Virginia and in New Jersey, in the 2009 gubernatorial elections, you saw McDonald win in Virginia, and then you saw Chris Christie get elected to his first term in office in New Jersey. And then, of course, in the 2010 midterms, Republicans had that massive wave of victories. And again, with Barack Obama being much, much more popular than Joe Biden is. And let's go there actually real quick. I want to go here first, because this is what and yeah, my glasses are now on. This is, where do we have this? I want to pull this up because we can get to last night, but I want to start with Huh, thought I had it up. Maybe I do. Yes, there it is. Let me share this with you guys. Hi, everybody, as we sort of do this. I don't need to turn on sound for this. Professional journalism time. Oh, I see. Da, 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 da. This is good. All right. So this should have been a real indication. Actually, I'll leave my glasses on for this. This should have been a real indication that things could change. Right. We talked about this in terms of the 2016 election and the exit polling at the 2016 election, where more than 2/3 of Americans saw that the country was on the wrong track, felt that the country was on the wrong track. And once you saw that, you knew that Donald Trump's victory was in the bag. Now, we've been in a change environment for a long time. We could also say that the 2020 election was a change election, and Americans were felt that America was on the wrong track. But set that aside for that for a moment. But Sunday we have this. We have Chuck Todd coming out and saying that that Americans have lost their confidence in Biden. By the way, this is on the heels of some aggregate polling about the president's approval rating that seemed to indicate that he was on the upswing. But then this poll comes out, and you see Chuck Todd having a scramble. This is an NBC News poll. It is not a Fox News poll. It is not looking at the Daily Wire right now. It is not a Daily Wire news poll. So that was an indication that things were changing or could be changing, and that's important. I don't have video of Chuck Todd on this, but we could pull that up at some point in time. I do have other video that I want to play. So going into this, though, as I said, because I've been here before, I was skeptical. I was dubious that these guys were going to be able to pull it off, and frankly, there's a little bit of superstition on my part. I figured the more confident I might be, the less assured this was going to be. As I've said, hold on for a second. As I've said, I had to move out of Maryland in order for Larry Hogan to win. And then when I moved to Virginia, obviously we had Ralph Northam get elected, and here we are. But maybe that streak is broken. So last night, I'm sitting here and I'm watching all of this, and I am watching the results come in, and I am seeing the polls look like they're going well. The returns look like they're going well for Glenn Youngkin, and you come out. McAuliffe comes out and gives his concession speech. Let me tell you, classy guy, that Terry McAuliffe. We'll get more on that in a second. But I loved this. Like he gives his speech, and then immediately, the crowd clears out. Let me tell you something. This is not before the victory party. I want to be really clear here. This is, it's funny because whoever this Pearson Sharp person is, they wrote this tweet at 11:49 p.m. This was happening much earlier on. We were watching this before we went to bed last night. But I will tell you though, as I watched this happen, I was again skeptical. I'll be really clear here. I was skeptical that Youngkin was still going to be able to pull it off. Right? We had these calls last night saying that there was they were calling for a rerun of the election results in Fairfax County. Fairfax County is massive. We didn't have election returns yet from Norfolk, Virginia. I felt and it was tightening up as I was going to bed. Because it had been, right, Youngkin had been up by, I think, 130, 160,000 votes at one point, and that margin was shrinking. And I went to bed thinking, something, I know what's going to happen. I know I'm going to go to bed, and it's going to flip, and it's going to be like Georgia all over again. They're going to all of a sudden find all these votes in Fairfax County and in Norfolk and in Loudoun, but they didn't. They didn't. And so what happens? And I want to get into this. What happens is then the media reaction starts to all of this. And that's important here as you see this. And, obviously it's interesting. I was alternating between CNN and Fox last night. I tried logging a little bit of time with MSNBC, and I just couldn't do it because it is, I couldn't. You might be thinking, well, Andrew, you should be taking joy in the tears of the progressives on MSNBC, and I'm like, it's not fun to watch. It's not interesting to watch. At least CNN was trying to put on the vague image of being fair and balanced last evening. But here, let's go here. This is as they talk about this, and of course, we need to talk about the history of what was happening, of what happened last night. But let's share this. Let's share the sound, and let's pull this up here. So here you have a couple of things. You got Van Jones. This is Van Jones goes off. This is from Town Hall. Van Jones goes off the rail ahead of the Virginia election results. And this is now. I want you to cast your memory back to 4 years ago. 4 years ago, you will recall that it was the first election after Donald Trump was elected president. A very good friend of mine, friends of mine, Ed and Kathy Gillespie. Ed Gillespie was running for governor. And the Democrats just offered this hateful ad, right? All that the Democrats have is calling Republicans racists and white supremacists. And of course, this was a couple of months after Charlottesville. So there was this horrible ad that went out there on the part of, and it was supposed to be an independent expenditure. We now know that it was in fact not independent, but essentially had a truck with I want to say it had a Confederate flag bumper sticker on the back of it, and I think it had chains dragging from the end of it, and they were chasing down immigrant children. And the idea was, if you vote for Ed Gillespie, you're voting for a party that believes in chasing down immigrant children. And so we have this trope of white supremacy and Trumpism. And I'm going to say this: nothing suggests white supremacy more than having a ticket sweep the election in which you have one woman of color, the first woman of color ever elected lieutenant governor in the state of Virginia, and the first Latino elected attorney general in the state of Virginia. But yeah, that's apparently evidence of white supremacy. Here is Van Jones last night on CNN talking about this.
First of all, it's not over. You do have the grassroots folks out there fighting for this on the Democratic Party side. The stakes are high. When this election is over in Virginia, we will know. Have we seen the emergence of the Delta variant of Trumpism? The Delta variant of Trumpism. In other words, Youngkin, same disease, but spreads a lot faster and can get a lot more places.
Yeah, nothing says, and again, it's funny because the left talks about dog whistles, and they talk about CRT and education curriculum and parents' choice. Somebody else said parents' choice is a racist dog whistle. I mean, this is what they do. But in point of fact, the dog whistle here is Trumpism, right? And calling out. I know you're right. It's calling it Trumpism is the dog whistle for white supremacy, right? And calling someone a white supremacist. And again, I want to revert back to this and say, right, Winsome Sears is proof positive. We can talk about the divide, but let's keep going here as we talk about this. Here is Nicole Wallace on MSNBC. You have Van Jones engaging in the dog whistle. Nicole Wallace, at least to her credit, she went full bore here. Here's what she had to say.
I guess I don't want to be the skunk at the garden party, but I think there's a sense among Republicans that what Youngkin did was where Trump ran as a guy who was gonna ban all Muslims, who Mexicans were rapists and murderers, black people came from bleep hole countries. He was such an uncouth and flagrant, debased. There was no conversation about race under him. It was beneath even people who said they voted for him. What Youngkin has done is he put it in a disguise.
Yes.
He gave it a fake name, and his candidacy is wrapped in two big lies. One is this half-truth. I flew an insurrection flag at my rally, but Trump said arm's length, there's Trump.
Yeah.
And the second big lie is that I watched his rally last Saturday. His campaign promise, and he was making this promise in Loudoun and in Alexandria, is on day one, I'm going to ban critical race theory. That is like us banning the ghosts.
Right.
There are no ghosts.
That's right.
So we can say, you know what, 7 p.m. we're banning the ghosts. There are no ghosts. There isn't critical race theory talk. What he's done is
except of course that the Virginia Department of Education admits that it is being taught, right? I mean, I'm gonna say this. Okay, let's talk about the why. Let's talk about the why for a few minutes. And we can stop sharing this. I don't think is there any other video here? There is. Well, we'll keep going about that in a second. We'll come back. We'll come back to the videos in a second. Let's talk a little bit about the why for a moment, because this is important. As I've been saying, if you spent any time listening to me over the last a few years, you know that my approach to elections has long been, right. I'm a firm believer in the concept that politics is about addition and multiplication, not division and subtraction. You are moving, and in the case of elections recently, of course, you're talking about moving small groups of people from column A to column B, right? You're moving them around, and you're trying to build this coalition to move it forward. And the fight, the battleground, has been, of course, among so-called independent voters, and especially around, and I'm going to say the demographic of suburban soccer moms. What voters don't like to be, and especially independent voters, so we'll be really clear about this. Now I'll leave the glasses on. What voters don't like to be is lied to. They don't like that. I am, this because I feel this way about all of you. I believe that my audience is educated. I believe that they have a hunger for knowledge. They want to hear facts. They want to hear rationality. And what they don't want, what people generally don't want, is they don't want to be lied to. They don't want to be told mistruths. Now, listen, I will say that there is a certain portion of the electorate that apparently doesn't care about being lied to. Right? I'm going to say we call them Democrats, right? The Democrats are out there, and they don't mind, being told that, there's nothing wrong here. We're going to get into the president. The president didn't fall asleep. The president didn't poop his pants. There is no such thing as critical race theory. There is no such thing as a culture war. Right. And the gas prices are because the economy is getting better. It has nothing to do with the fact that we've cut off our supplies of domestic oil. Anyway, all of these things. They don't care about these things. But there is this issue of cognitive dissonance. What do I mean by that? What I mean is the disconnect between what Barack Obama is telling people, or what Nicole Wallace is telling people, and what they're seeing on the ground. What Joe Biden is telling people and what they're seeing on the ground. Parents can see when their kids are coming home spouting all of this woke garbage at them. There's the philosophy of redistributive economics. This concept, right? That Christopher Columbus was a bad person. Anyway, all sorts of myths. But when they go to the gas pump and they see that gas prices are twice as much as they were in the spring of 2020. They know that something is wrong when they go to their grocery shelves and they see shelves that are empty or products that they can't get. I've talked about this. I went on a trip recently and had to go and find a particular product that I like to travel with, and it was gone. It was not anywhere, not at the 3 stores that I went to. Turns out it was a supply chain issue. People notice these things. They notice when prices are going up. And so, this is so when a candidate comes out there and says, I don't believe that parents should be involved in the curriculum. Parents should be out of the curriculum business. That's an issue. So yeah, so this is this is what happens. And let me get back to this because this is good stuff. As they're sort of denying what they're doing. Oh, good. Here we go. Oh, it didn't just play it. All right. Well, that's fine.
The grassroots folks out there fight. First of
Oh,
all,
we already
it's
saw
not
this
over.
one. All right. That one we've played. Oh, I see. This is the same thing as before. My point is that playing on racial fears by demagoguing CRT furthers dangerous aspects of Trumpism just in friendlier form. Well, no one's saying that. Well, no one's saying that. We thought you were saying that they're a disease. We know what you're saying, Van Jones. We know that what you're doing is you're using a dog whistle. And you're saying that Glenn Youngkin is a white supremacist. Now, I want to go here because I want to talk about the why and where things stand right now. In fact, what I want to do. Oh, because I'll get to that in a minute. We talk about these kitchen table issues here, and this gets into what I think was the seminal ad of this campaign. Now, it played on my social media all the time, but we talk about these prices, and this ad made a lot of people on the left angry. But here is an ad, right? It's funny because somebody on the left was saying, I don't remember who it was, that a Glenn Youngkin victory, said this yesterday, a Glenn Youngkin victory would be indicative that all you can do is run on fear, right? This is the other trope that the left uses. The Republicans don't have ideas. Conservatives don't have ideas. They're just running on fear. Now, the reality, of course, is, again, I mean, you talk about this. Sorry that I'm interrupting myself. You talk about this issue, and we've talked about it quite a bit in the past, of your opponents telegraphing to you, transmitting to you exactly who they are and what they're doing. Right? So when Democrats are out there talking about racism and Republicans being white supremacists, conservatives being white supremacists, right? Well, we talk about this in Virginia, while we blithely ignore, I talked about this on the live show last week, while we blithely ignore that we had two statewide elected officials in Virginia who had real incidents of racist behavior, including a governor who was either in blackface or wearing a Klan robe, never got to the root of that. I mean, so yeah, this idea that we go down this road, and then this idea of only running on fear, right? What do you call an ad which is supposed to target immigrants, and saying, hey, you elect Ed Gillespie, drivers are going to be running down your kids in a truck. This is all about fear that they have. But no, the reality is, of course, Republicans are running on ideas. Glenn Youngkin is running on ideas. And I'll tell you something, that the slogan, Youngkin means business, that's great stuff. I wish I'd thought of that years and years ago. Anyway, so let's get back to this. This to me was the best ad of the campaign.
It's not your imagination. Consumer prices are going up. And to make matters worse, Virginia is only one of 13 states to tax groceries.
Now, let me pause this here and say something about this. By the way, filmed at a place called Tom Leonard's outside of Richmond. That has a kind of a special place in my heart. I'm still a Wegmans guy, as you all know. But when growing up in New York, we had a grocery store. It came in really later on. For me, I think it was originally a Connecticut store called Stu Leonard's, and I think Stu Leonard's son Tom opened up an outlet in Virginia. It looks remarkably the same to the Stu Leonard stores in the New York metropolitan area, but it's just smaller. Anyway, so this was filmed there.
As governor, I will eliminate Virginia's grocery tax. Career politicians will call it radical, but to me, it's just common sense. Because saving a little extra on milk and bread and all of this, it adds up. It's time to make it a little easier to live, work, and raise a family here in Virginia.
Yeah, the best ad in the campaign, right? We talk about this. We talk about reaching people at the kitchen table, and that's, you know, grocery prices are the ultimate sort of kitchen table discussion, aren't they? And so you know, you know, I should really get glare-free glasses when I do this, but set that aside. But you know, this is just it. So, you know, when you say that they are bereft of ideas, that they're just running on fear, no, they're running on the issues that matter most to the voters who are going to vote on them. And grocery prices are certainly that. And now that it looks like Republicans are poised to take control of the Virginia House of Delegates, you can actually have some meaningful change. And what are Democrats really going to run on this idea? No, that people should pay grocery taxes. That oh my goodness, the wealthy are going to benefit from having a tax break on paying groceries. I mean, really? I mean, that's I guarantee you they're going to try to engage in some kind of class warfare on this. So yeah, so what else do we have here? Because I want to go through these. All right, so what else was going on here? Because I want to go through, you know, as this was happening, then we'll get into what happened in New Jersey in a second. In fact, I think this leads into it. In terms of the national mindset, we talked about this issue of 71% of Americans thinking that the country's on the wrong track. And I think one can extrapolate from that the country thinks, that many people in the country think that the Democrats are out of touch. But let's go here. You know, this was not helpful. I think leading up to Election Day, here is the President of the United States attending the COP26 speeches. This was the big climate summit over the weekend. Here's the President of the United States.
All around the world to commit to concrete actions to
Watch
stop
it.
the destruction of this magnificent planet. This conference is one of the most important meetings in history. You have the chance to make decisions and
Here we go. My goodness.
the lives of generations to come. You are in a position of extraordinary
You know,
power. You
all right.
can change forever the trajectory we are on.
All right, see, look, it's not. He's not the only one. You got the lady back here who was falling asleep as well.
This is my message from Earth to come. On behalf
Here we go. And then we got somebody waking him up.
All right,
Actually, I should have stopped that before I did it. Oh my goodness. You know, when we have a situation in which the President of the United States, you know, we are concerned about his acumen, we're concerned about his ability to serve. Now, as I said, the woman behind the president was falling asleep as well, or yawning. She wasn't falling asleep; she was yawning. But I've talked about this, about the HBO show Veep being a mirror for you know, or the most accurate portrayal of life in DC. It's funny because in the first season of Veep, there is an incident in which the Vice President Selena Meyer falls asleep while she is presiding over the Senate, and you don't have a person who's able to rush in there and say something to her. But but my point is, that's one thing. The other part of this is this issue of people being out of touch and the Democrats going off the rails. And so with that, I want to pull up, this is something I wanted to talk about. This is Rashida Tlaib. You know, you talk about someone who's, we talk about the squad, we talk about the progressive left and how they're lurching forward. You know, this is emblematic of everything that is wrong about why Democrats are going to ultimately lose, and lose big next year in the midterm elections. It's because of people like Rashida Tlaib and the insanity that they're bringing to the Congress. Here is what she had to say.
It's hard to believe that Mint Mobile can be good at just $15 a month. So,
all right, sorry guys. So we have this. Let me
brought in
mute
one of
this.
our first and oldest customers, Wasim.
Not gonna let me mute it.
Welcome to Mint, Ryan. So you've had Mint for years. Any issues?
No, the service has been great.
Oh, thank you,
my
Rumble,
ownership,
for doing this as
it's
we
gonna get
sort of have this this
How?
thing here.
No idea.
10 seconds left as we look at Ryan
Still
Reynolds.
$15 a month, though, right?
Yep.
Sorry, guys.
How about
I should be
Taco
better. I
Wednesday?
should have pulled this up
Nobody's
from
done that
CNN and not relied on Dan Bongino's Bongino report.
Mike Worth.
All right, stop. Actually, I want to start again. So this is I want to say he's the CEO of Chevron. Let's go full screen here. And I'm going to tell you something. You know, we could talk about Kirsten Sinema and her outfits on the floor of the Senate. But respect goes both ways. And I'm sorry, you know, you are the CEO of a corporation. Unless you're some kind of a celebrity and you're sort of known by going for your by your first name, you are someone who goes and you testify before a House committee. You're called before Congress to testify. There is something entirely inappropriate about a member of Congress calling a CEO, calling a witness, calling any witness by their first name. I'm not going to even say CEO. There is a certain formality that is supposed to be at work here. And I'm sorry, look at this, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez sitting right behind Rashida Tlaib. So let's get back to this.
Mike Worth. When are you going to cut the check?
Congresswoman, I'm not sure I understand the context of your question.
That's okay. Okay, so
could I, excuse me, I'd like to correct something that you've
sure.
been provided with some inaccurate information.
Mm-hmm.
Noble Energy was not a subsidiary of Chevron in 2000.
Okay, you can submit it for the record, sir.
Okay, so he's correcting her, right? She is proceeding. She is a member of Congress who is proceeding. Let me set the context here. What Rashida Tlaib is saying is that we have these regimes around the world that are always trying to extract money out of big pockets. And this is not me sitting here defending environmental damage. Not at all. But there are any things that can happen here. And Rashida Tlaib is not the representative of the people of Uzbekistan or the people of Chile or whatever. She represents her constituency. And so this idea that she is going to say, when are you going to cut the check? All right. Wait till she gets to talking about indigenous people, because this is my favorite part.
You can submit it to the committee. Chevron has about 70 serious cases of environmental and community abuses in 31 countries worldwide, owing over $50 billion in judgments and settlements checks, literally settlement debts that you all have. So, Mike, when you
first of all, okay, again, coming back to this. So, Mike, when are you going to cut the check? How about if you really want to, I mean, this again gets into if you're legitimately interested in answering the question, or whether or not you're just trying to score political hit points. And again, to call a witness by their first name, respect goes both ways. When are you going to cut the check?
Congresswoman, I'm not familiar with the number you.
When are you going to cut the $50 billion check that you owe? It went through the courts. You owe $50 billion.
All right, and again, this is assuming, of course, that these other courts, let's assume that the number's right. Let's assume that there were judgments that were found. This is, of course, assuming that these courts are not, astoundingly corrupt, and that they're subject to the same kind of judicial processes that we are in the United States.
Communities in 31 countries.
Congresswoman, I'd be happy to take a look at the source for your information on
Sure.
this and get back to you on it, because I have no understanding of what.
Well, I have a message for you as Chevron CEO. I mean, you made what, $29 million last year in poisoning the planet?
$29 million in poisoning the planet. $29 million in extracting fuel that we need as a planet and that we use as a resource in making all kinds of products, including that wonderful little microphone. And I don't think you can see my cursor here, but the wonderful little microphone, how that bends lots of plastic components, this computer monitor here. Poisoning the planet, made $29 million poisoning the planet. That's our takeaway here.
Mr. Worth, you can't arrest us all. You can't arrest the truth. Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you?
Lord knows I have no idea what she's saying. You can't arrest us all. He's the CEO of Chevron. Anyway.
Congresswoman, I am not exactly following.
This poor guy.
So you're targeting and actions against the human rights lawyer Dotzinger. I mean, what you did there, your company, maybe through subsidiaries, I don't know. I just want to remind you, there are more of us than there are of you. You can poison the planet to make money, but we're going to defend the planet so we can live, and we will win. So, I need Chevron to cut the check. You owe $50 billion.
I need Chevron to cut the check, as though she's going to get some of that money, some of that fat Chevron cash. Hey, I'm Mike. Cut the check so I can get some of my poisoning the planet money. I stepped on it. This is my favorite part here. This is great. Ladies and gentlemen, a member of the United States Congress.
Indigenous communities and people that
this again. I'm screwing it up. I shouldn't make fun of this, especially as I butcher the audio or the video here.
$1 billion to indigenous communities and people that you harmed for profit. This is not about vilifying these companies. This is about
It's not about vilifying these companies. It's not about vilifying these companies. They're poisoning the planet. And he made $29 million poisoning, but no, it's not about vilifying the company.
You all know we're all paying the cost, from our public health to our
You know what we're paying the cost. All right, we're done here. We don't need any more Rashida Tlaib. We are paying the cost because you get Joe Biden going to COP26 and saying we're going to rejoin the Paris Accords and we're going to do it through the executive order because he knows he can't get it through the Senate. We're seeing the policies that Rashida Tlaib is proffering every day when we go to the pump, and yet that's where we're paying the price, right? We're paying the price because gasoline is double the cost that it was at the start of the pandemic or a couple weeks into the pandemic. And yeah, I get it. Listen, I get the issues of demand and how that plays into this. But one of the ways you hedge against demand-driven price jumps is by ensuring that we have a domestic supply of something. This is part of the reason why gas prices were stable during the Trump administration. I want to go here. We got that. All right, so here, because I'm sorry, I'm going through this. Oh, you know something? Speak of the devil, the left going off the rails. Again, Biden at the climate summit. I would be remiss before we start talking about Pennsylvania, before we start talking about New Jersey. Here is Greta Thunberg, and I will warn you that this has some mildly strong language. So here is Greta Thunberg's new chant at COP26.
You can shove your climate crisis up your arse. You can shove your climate crisis up your arse. You can shove your climate crisis. You can shove your climate crisis. You can shove your climate crisis up your arse.
Classy, huh? There you go. That makes perfect sense. I love it. Anyway, let's go here. So, oh yeah. All right. So the big story in all of this was, and I've just spent almost 40 minutes talking about Virginia and how we got to Virginia. But the big story is what happened in New Jersey and what is happening in New Jersey. In fact, let me, while we're doing this, latest New Jersey, here we go. Let's pull this up so that we know. Sorry, as I'm trying to find this, the latest numbers here. Here we go. Oh boy, as I sit here and I look at the USA Today. Yep, no, it's not here. All right. So anyway, as of last night, in New Jersey, the Republican was up by about 70 votes over the incumbent Phil Murphy. And I'm pulling this up here because it's helpful to understand where things were before. Because I wanted to go back and look through. So back in May, the 538, which is 538.com, is a political polling thing. We all currently question the accuracy of their prognostication. You know, Nate Silver is always cheerleading when Democrats seem to be leading, and is a little, you know, tends to try to spin away why Republicans are doing well. But so here we have, back in May, the 538.com had New Jersey listed as a D plus 12. Now, it's obviously not the most Democratic state that's out there. More Democratic leaning than Virginia. They had Virginia at a D plus 4 as I'm looking at this. But New Jersey was a D plus 12. And then you had the Cook Political Report. This is over the weekend. This is late last week. The Cook Political Report writes, in the final stretch, New Jersey's governor's race remains solid Democrat. So what's happening in New Jersey. And again, even if Phil Murphy manages to pull off a victory, even if he manages to find however many votes he needs to sustain this, the fact is that for a state that was D plus 12, that the pundits were saying was a solid Democrat state, for the Republicans to come as close as they have and are doing, if not actually eking out a victory here, that speaks volumes for what is happening. And you know, I got the question today from my friends John Justice and Drew Lee on the Twin Cities News Talk. You know, how did they miss this? And I think it comes down to this. I think it comes down to a couple of things that are at play here. And I'm sorry Jerry's not with us today to talk about this, because Jerry lived in New Jersey for a very long time. He understands the politics there. But I suspect that because it was viewed as solidly blue, as a D plus 12, and a Republican would have a snowball's chance in Hades of winning the governorship, that there wasn't a whole heck of a lot of polling done. In fact, I could pull it up. I don't want to bore you with sort of getting back on my computer and doing this. I could bore you. I could pull up how many polls were done on Real Clear Politics. We could go do that. And I dare say that there are probably far fewer polls being done in New Jersey than were being done in Virginia, and that not a lot of money was being spent on that polling. When you don't spend money on polling, I'm not going to say you get bad polls, but you may not get polls that can accurately assess what the people are saying. There may be issues in New Jersey having to do with more people being unavailable to answer polling on their cell phones, and having pollsters who haven't seemed to figure out a way to get around that in New Jersey. And you may be easier to get a hold of people in Virginia still. I don't know. But there's that. But I will say this much. Because I think the factors that are at work in both states are similar but different. I think both Virginia and New Jersey were dealing with the right track, wrong track issues. I think the issues of you know, the Biden approval are highly important here. But it's also, whereas in Virginia, the education issue and the kitchen table issues were square in front, I suspect that in New Jersey, it's the crime issue that was much more prominent. And that way, it's one of those areas where New Jersey, I think, is remarkably similar to Maryland in that regard, right? We can draw comparisons between places like Newark and places like Baltimore. But when you look across the Hudson River in terms of what happened in New York City, with a nominally pro-police mayoral candidate winning there, that could tell you a lot about what's going on in New Jersey. Again, right, what they do have in common, I'm going to use this word in two different ways. What they do have in common, New Jersey and Virginia, is this issue of common sense and cognitive dissonance, right? And it gets into what happened in Minneapolis last night as well, right? A major police reform package defeated at the ballot box. And the dissonance is, right, you get folks like the Marilyn Mosbys of the world, or the Open Society Foundation and Open Society Institutes of the world, saying that we need to reimagine and reinvent policing. All the while, we're seeing crime spike in places like New York and probably certain areas of New Jersey. And folks are saying, well, wait a minute. So we're going to police less, and we think we're going to produce less crime. You know, in Baltimore, we're gonna prosecute fewer people, and we think that it's gonna somehow reduce crime when it doesn't. You know, and you know, you get the garbage statistic in Maryland. Oh well, Baltimore, we're prosecuting fewer people for petty crime, therefore petty crime is down. No, it's not the way it works. If you're not prosecuting people for petty crime, it means you're not going to arrest people for petty crime. And guess what? It means that petty crime is not going to get reported in the same way. And sorry, in the background, if you hear it, my garage door is going up. My daughter is coming home, which means that we should probably wrap this up in a couple of minutes. So that's what's happening in New Jersey, and why I think the New Jersey story is a much bigger one, because it shouldn't have happened that way. It should not have been. It certainly shouldn't have been that close, and it certainly shouldn't have produced the victory that it did. I want to offer up, as we talk about this, I want to offer up the words of Ben Shapiro, who wrote this. Condolences to Virginia on becoming radically racist again, according to the media, by electing a black female lieutenant governor and a Cuban American attorney general. Rejecting racial essentials in schools and replacing a Democratic governor who wore an actual KKK outfit. So, I said it along the same ways as well. Okay, hey, so as I wrap this up, no news on the other front, and I'm sorry about that. What I need you to do is I need you to pay attention to what's happening here on the Andrew Langer Show page, or on the Andrew Langer Show YouTube channel. It's up there. I'll put the link up there. Also, all of these things are going to be uploaded to SoundCloud. If you haven't checked out my interview with Glenn DeVries from last week, the Blue Origin astronaut. I can take my glasses off now. The Blue Origin astronaut. Go and check that out. That is a fascinating discussion, and it's going to lead to more. You can see it on Twitter, so I'm not giving anything away. Glenn, as I told you, was a year behind me at my high school, Fieldston. Also in Glenn's class was Ian Kahn, who played George Washington in AMC's The Turn. Ian was so pleased with how the interview went with Glenn DeVries. Ian has said that he would love to come on. So we're going to work on getting him on soon. My interview yesterday with Michael Harrison is great. If you're a music fan, many of you are music fans who listen to the show and watching these videos. If you're interested in rock radio and how rock radio and what music DJing can teach us about talk radio, teach talk radio hosts, go and check that out. It's a fun interview, learning about how the album-oriented rock format came about. That's great. Next week, at least it's on the schedule. I thought it was going to be yesterday. We got our dates confused. Next week, I'm going to be sitting down with Brian Kilmeade from Fox News to talk about his new book about Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. So tune in there. Listen, we're going to be doing more of these, and I've got to find. Listen, I know I've got to find a way to make them more interactive. Anyway, guys, thank you so very much for joining me. Take care, and as I always say, have a great week, everybody. Have fun and stay safe.